Okay. Hello again. This is Ken Leach with the National Football Foundation St. Louis Town Lombardo chapter. We are continuing our past award recipient Zoom interviews in celebration of our 30th anniversary. Tonight we have Ben Noll, Priory High School, University of Pennsylvania, Wharton Business School Grad. He was in the NFL as an offensive lineman with the St. Louis Rams, Dallas Cowboys, and the Detroit Lions. Ben says it's nice to be recognized, but we are all merely products of those we surround ourselves with. So keep good company and join us tonight in our interview with Ben Noll. Thank you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I can't accept that hat of yours though. That's got to go.
Why? Why not? It's the red and blue scheme. I thought it would be like old memories of Priory and University of Pennsylvania.
No. The Kansas City Chiefs no. I can't. Them being the only team in Missouri is not acceptable.
You know, when the Rams left, it was by default. You know, I just said, okay, I'm a Chief now.
My first away game was against the Chiefs, and it was a scenario where I think I told you this last time, but I'll just tell it to you again. Like when it was when they yell home of the have you ever been to a Chiefs game?
Home of the Chiefs, yeah.
Yeah. So when they yell home, instead of home of the Brave, they yell home of the Chiefs, and this was like a Monday night game, and they all yelled at the same time,
right.
And the ground shook.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like this is not acceptable. This is not going the way I anticipated. Like,
you know, here's another thing. They all stand the entire game there, Ben. And I tell you, that's something I don't know if I could get used to, but the entire game they stand the whole time. So you can't sit down, otherwise you'd never see the game.
It is one of the top 5 venues in the NFL for sure. I will, between the barbecue, their demeanor, it's not an easy place to go play a game as someone who has gone in there and won a game. So I will give them that. I will give respect where it's due.
Tell our viewership, kind of take us back to Priory, like your junior and senior year. Tell us a little bit about that before you were selected for the NFF.
If I go back to the beginning of football, and particularly Priory, it was a scenario where I just showed up in 7th grade and I didn't know anybody. Priory was something. I was a West County kid, and so Priory was one of those things where my mom just dropped me off one day, like, "You're going to school here." I'm like, "Okay." Like I knew about it briefly from a basketball camp, but I got there and everybody knew each other. I mean, they had all been going to school at Oak Hill and the other schools in the area. So it was a scenario where the first day, they're like, everyone has to play a sport here. That's a thing at Priory, is that every semester you are doing some type of athletic endeavor. And I was like, I guess I'll go to this field. Sure, why not? We'll just see what this is all about. And so I got over to Coach Combs and the Priory football field. And literally the reason why I chose it is because people had their name on their helmet. And so for me, football was not something I wanted to go do. It was not something I thought I could do. It was literally my way of meeting my classmates. And so, if I also look back on the other memories, I was hanging out with some of my alumni earlier in the week. Touch football was just something we played, on the class grounds and the commons, like prior to school. Like I'd be dropped off an hour before school and we needed to figure out something to do. So we just threw around the ball. Eventually, we strung together a bunch of ABC League championships and had some success with it. But when you think back of Priory football, you remember the people, the coaches, but then also just the bonds that you have with the players. So we could talk about accolades and wins and all, but the thing you remember is the coaches and the guys that you just, the other alumni that you hung out with. That's what made the game special, is that it really ingrained a lot of Priory's virtues and also just bound us as a class together.
Well, tell us a little bit about Coach Combs then. What kind of influence did he have on you?
I think Marty was the type of guy that you just he met you in 7th grade, and he was the disciplinarian. He was the one that ran the junior school, and so he just knew you from when you were little, when you were bright-eyed and just showed up. And it was something he always knew how to get the best out of you. There's very few men that I've been around that are just so consumed with getting that out of you that they know the buttons to press. The other one that I would put in the same category is like Bill Parcells. Like, he can walk into a room, command the attention of everyone involved, but he would know what to say to each. Because he'd been around us for so long, he knew who was the leader, who was the guys that needed to be pushed a little more, who was the ones that could handle it. And so, again, a large success of keeping those teams together and watching them grow was because of his orchestrations and his, things that you don't even realize. You're like, you look back now and, you start talking about, this Oklahoma drill. And like, that wasn't on the script that day, but that's what we needed to be able to do, to be able to go play Burroughs well that week. It's things like that. You're just like, okay, I didn't even realize this was going on. So that's the genius of coaching, is that when they get the best out of you and you don't even realize it.
So they were practicing emotional intelligence before the book came out, right?
It's one of those things where I had the chance to be able to check out some of the other people that have been on this, program. And, you start talking about Navy SEALs and CEOs and leaders of men. And I'm like, I don't belong with this group. But it's one of those scenarios where, individuals like that instill that in you. I think that if you're in that environment, you can only just partially take components from them and be able to incorporate that into your own discipline and into your own sense of virtue and so forth. So I was just grateful.
And that's a humble response, but let's cut that myth short real quick. Okay, so here you were at Priory, and just to fill in some of the viewerships, you had back-to-back championships. You guys were like undefeated, and you had honors through there. You go from Priory to one of the best Ivy schools there is, University of Penn. You graduate from probably the best, in my opinion, business school there is, Wharton. You go on, you get drafted by the NFL Rams, which that's like 1/1000% of all the football players that ever play. They're happy just to go to college and play. But you go on to the NFL and you play with the Cowboys. Everybody wants to play for the Cowboys, the Lions. So, and then you marry a doctor. I mean, so yeah, I think you had a pretty,
don't tell that last part to my wife. She just walked in. She'll love it. But I think if you look at the common strings behind all of that, which I don't try to even think about, it's the people that you surround yourself with. And so with football, you don't even quite realize it. You're put in a pressure cooker situation. You have training camp. You have these, things this duress that's put on you. And a lot of it's physical, but more of it's mental than ever. And really what it teaches you is that you are as good as the people around you. And so you quickly realize that you can accomplish a whole lot more with someone else than without. And so, I look at the reason why I went to the NFL it was not my desire. It was not something I thought I could do. I had a buddy of mine who was like my best friend, and he was like, "We can go do this together." And I was like, "You're silly, but I'll join you because of the vision that you see in me and yourself." And then you go to the NFL. Like I didn't think I was going to make the team. I was just happy to be able to be holding pads for Orlando, being coached by Jackie Slater. Steven Jackson and I are figuring out how to pick up blitzes together. It's like Sandlot out there, and we're doing it against the Chicago Bears. I mean, it's one of those scenarios where, you just look and you go, okay, like I was on a team with Steven Jackson. Like we had a good time. Like I was on the people around me were the reason I was successful. We played 5 years. We had a good time. But at the end of the day, my wife, I was like, there's only going to get one of these that come around. And I can keep chasing this dream where I can see if this young lady is the real deal. I actually got called by the 49ers, and they were like, "You need to come play for us." It was Coach Martz again. And I was like, I got this. I got this girl. I got this. I can't. She was a resident. We just bought a house together, and you kind of realize, what that you accomplished what you want, that you got out of it. You were able to prove to yourself and show like the Coach Combs of the world that their effort and their belief in you paid off, right? And so that's once you hit that milestone, you're like, okay, like NFL stands for not for long. Like this is not something that's going to be doing, this is not why we went to school in the first place. When you go to a school place like Priory, that's not the vision, right? I found out that the way we found out about the NFF was we were at a game in South Bend, and we went, I mean, I'm a Catholic guy, so Notre Dame football is when I was getting recruited by Bob Davie to come there. I was like, yes, I will come here. Sure, whatever you want. And so it was a scenario where we ran to the College Football Hall of Fame that's there, and we saw all of the different accolades and the whole thing. And my mom was actually the one that reached out to Giannone and Combs and was like, we should nominate and be a part of this. So it was one of those scenarios. I now know how that actually all came to fruition.
Tell us a little bit about the dinner. Some of our viewers haven't been to the dinner yet.
The dinner is a very special thing because it's one of those scenarios where, as a player, you get very limited opportunities to show gratitude to the people that got you there. And I didn't get to practice by myself. I didn't get to the weight room by myself. I certainly didn't pay for all the food that I consumed to become 280 pounds. But then there's also individuals like Marty who donated 6 years of their life to making me a better individual. And so the dinner is unique in that you can have all those people in one room. And the 5 or 6 individuals, it's not about us. I mean, it's great that we were able to do fun things, but it's more about our ability to now communicate back to them, thank you. And so for me, our dinner was kind of unique just because I had some of the rivals that I played against from one of the 5. So I was like, that was our first time actually like hanging out in a non, uniform, presentation. So it was fun to meet them just as people. But then also it was like Grant Wistrom was there, and he was, a big deal in St. Louis at the time. The head coach was there, and he actually had a place up in Philly, and was like, I heard you're going to Penn. Anytime you need anything, here's my number, here's my address, stop by. And when you're 18,
I love that Dick Vermeil story is a classic because it's really him, isn't it? I mean, that's what he always was.
It's one of those scenarios where you're an 18-year-old kid, you don't think that the NFL is a possibility. But when you have coaching greats who won Super Bowls offer to just their willingness to let you in the club, just to say, I mean, I had Grant Wistrom be like, bend down, you're making me look short. It was like that they could have such grace and humor and accept you into the fraternity that it is football players.
So you got the complexities of going from high school to college and then NFL. Tell us a little bit about what's it like to be on the line? What are the complexities of the plays when you're out there? What kind of X's and O's are you thinking about?
I mean, I love when people tell me what they're watching on a football game, and I'm like, okay, hold on. We know where the ball is. Watch the safeties, because if you watch Tony Romo telecast a game, right? Tony and I had the same offensive coordinator in Dallas. Tony was the 3rd string quarterback at the time when I was there. And so it was interesting to see how you pick apart a defense and what we're paying attention to. And so the entire time it's a chess match. It's the offense trying to figure out where the defense is coming from. Because if we can figure that out before the snap, and so this weekend when the next game's coming up here, watch Brady motion somebody across the line of scrimmage. That's for him to determine if it's man or zone. And then if you see Brady bark out some different things, that's him moving things along. And so when we talk about what makes a great leader, that EQ that you brought up earlier in our conversation, it's that knowing what it's going to take to get your men in the proper position really allows you to play the game at a high level at 42 versus, that's the kind of the fun stuff. And Mahomes is getting there, but that's, if you're going to wear your Kansas City Chiefs hat, you got to be able to appreciate the greatness of the GOAT. And so that's the thing I would encourage you to watch is really watch how safeties are back. And so anyways, if that's the fun stuff. Watch the safeties. Don't watch the ball. We know where the ball is.
I love Brady. In fact, Belichick, his dad coached at Navy, so I'm a big Belichick fan. If you're a Belichick fan, you've got to be a Brady fan. So Brady's there for, I don't know how many years now. It's been 15 or 16. I mean, what's the average lifetime of an NFL player? Do you know?
It's 2.5 years.
Holy cow! You're kidding me.
Oh no, that's a lot. I mean, you got to really. I mean, for every Tom Brady, there's.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. do the math, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I did hear some stats on even linemen too. I mean, an average age. I mean, because a long time ago they would just quit and they'd stop working out, and you got this, muscle heart that's not, working as hard as it was. So you look like you slimmed down good and you're really taking care of yourself.
I like that you think that. I'm only, $2.99 as of this morning. So I really appreciate your, it's fun. I'm on the board here, of the NFLPA. And so in Nashville, we have 160 former players, and some of like Mark Bulger, who I played with, like a Jared Allen that I played against. And so it's kind of interesting to see the health outcomes of players. I hate to even give you the statistics, but for offensive linemen, we averaged making it to 53 as our life expectancy.
I heard that.
And so you can go, if you look at over 160 individuals, the NFL actually does a pretty good job of doing clinics to help us with EKGs and help us with, the various things. It's also the mental health aspect is another really challenging thing for former players. But again, I think it comes back down to you surrounding yourself with those former individuals, and you just check on them. I had one of my buddies that I played with in Dallas who lives here now. His 15-year-old daughter is having chemo, right? Like, just so. But the fact that we're here together, able to support each other, and have those bonds. You do that together. It's like being in the Navy. You have that. You sacrificed for that greater other individual to get the job done, and that really links you together in a different way, and you look out for each other. So that's kind of there's some challenges, but there's also some benefits of it. So
I love the Players Association. I mean, they do some great work. Obviously, you know a lot more about it than I do, but you got to have some sort of advocates and representatives there that understand that more than the average Joe, right?
It's a scenario where we have the trust, and they've really, over the last CBA, started to roll out more resources to the former players. This last CBA had a significant pay increase to the players that were prior to 1992. Prior to 1992, the pension was a lot different. There was some, different things that they were given that were not, like an annuity, basically. Like, you had individuals who didn't have enough to pay rent, do some just basic things. And so they do a good job. The hard part is that the NFL is very, it's a star-driven league. It's people show up to watch Mahomes and the Bradys of the world. And as much as they like the Ben Knolls of the world, it's a scenario where you have to keep 3,000 people unified and then also look out for the 30,000 former players. So I could never imagine being in their shoes and their job. I mean, I know, there's several of our advocates that are continually challenged. But again, as former players, we just have to look out for each other. I mean, we have to be able to develop those support groups, encourage each other to go to the Y, do those basic things, and then articulate our needs back to the owner or back to the Nolan Harrisons of the world and the people that run the NFLPA, so that way they can continue to fight for us. So it's never something that you complete or a journey that you finish. Right. But again, it's one of those things where I don't think people quite realize what those sacrifices are and what occurs to generate the entertainment that they consume. So again, it's just one of those things it's just there's a reason why I was fortunate to get the time that I did and was like, yep, I'm good. I've seen enough of this to know where this is a good point to end the sentence.
Okay, so you're in the NFL. You guys, you get married. How many kids you got? 3. Okay, boys?
2 girls and a boy.
2 girls and a boy. Okay, so what would you say your sons are going to be? Long snapper, pulling guard, defensive? What would you guess right now?
So this is one of those things where you argue with your significant other, right? She's under the opinion that CTE is a thing and that our children won't play football and da-da-da. And I kind of look back at her and I go, at that point, we will know more about the risks. Yeah. And down here in the South, we do things a little faster than we did back up in St. Louis. There's no 7th graders that are starting to play football. They do it a little earlier, but it's one of those things where, like, let's say I don't go to that Priory football field and meet Marty.
Right.
Let's say I go over to the soccer field and do that, or a variety of other sports. And it's not to say that football is the end all be all, but I think the experiences and the stimuli that you give yourself shape your life, and particularly the people that you do those things with. And so if I was not introduced to my best friend, if I was not introduced to the other alumni that I talked about having such a great bond with, maybe I don't find joy at Priory in my early formative years. Maybe I don't make it through that, and then I don't go to Penn. Like the whole thing is built on that team and us taking the best out of each other. And so to tell my children that they can't do something,
yeah.
I'm only 6 years into this parenting thing, but anything I tell my children to not do,
they do.
So it's one of those things where I want them to be aware of the risks, and I want them to make their own choice. But I don't want to ever tell them that they vehemently can't do something, because I want the best version of themselves.
Here's one of the things that one of the reasons we do this is because I think we want to show people that we've invested in some good people, and to our NFF credit, they pick out people before they become NFL players and Wharton graduates and things like that. And that's kind of a neat thing to be able to tell our membership that this is what you're investing into. These are what these guys become. They serve the community. We like to call it, it's like an acronym called CLASS. So they got character. It's not all about football. It's character, leadership. They're athletes. They've got scholarship, academics, and also service to their community. So we look at you guys, and you do all those things. It's really awesome. So what would you tell sponsors and membership payers? Almost like, I wish your wife was here too, because another thing is like St. Jude's, Children's Hospital, wonderful things that they donate money to and stuff, right? It's because of sponsors and people that give. What do you tell people like that? How's it helping the community and players and just people in general?
Yeah, so it's fun you bring up St. Jude's, only because worldwide, that's obviously, if you look at their digital applications and you look into that, we did a lot of that work on the back end. So that's kind of the fun part about working at Worldwide, is that I get to bring the best of St. Louis to the rest of the world. Is the 30-year vision of Dave Stewart and so forth, and we can go about that at another time, at a later date. But I think kind of the unique model that you did is that you had the coaches nominate, and so I think even if you didn't know, the individuals nominating did, and I think like a Marty, who's been joyous enough to see hundreds of kids go through his tutelage, he could be able to identify the 2 or 3 that would exhibit the traits that you've done. So I it's great that you trusted, but I think you trusted the right people, which is the coaches in the community, who get to see that firsthand. And those are the real heroes. Those are the individuals that I would ensure your sponsors, see and are aware, because I look at my greatness only as I stood on Marty's shoulders. I look at my greatness only because I was around other people that motivated me to be able to do that. And so it's a scenario where, enabling them, supporting them, and giving gratitude back to them is the thing that is most paramount. So these golf classics, these dinners and so forth, the thing that's always there is the coaches that brought these men to begin with up. So when I look at like a Jake Parent or the other individuals, I'm like, that's the glue that makes this a reality.
And it couldn't have been said any better, Ben. Thank you. And tell me this though. Okay, so life after the NFL, you're married and all. Give a plug to Worldwide Technologies. Tell us a little bit about what you do now and your company.
Yeah, so Worldwide is the largest minority company in the country, and so we work with 70 of the Fortune 100, and we do modernizing infrastructure and digital outcomes. But I think it's really fun to be able, for me, because my wife works at the Hospital Corporation of America, and on a daily basis she has challenges, whether that's VPNing into the network, storing the images of an ultrasound that she did as an OBGYN, but it's also just how does she become the best physician possible? What are the digital outcomes that she's able to see? And so at our position at Worldwide, it enables us to allow her to be more patient-centric, less EMR, less of the back end, and more just face-to-face. And so that's the fun part about Worldwide, is I get to bring the experts and the great people of St. Louis that I grew up, that I was around, and I get to be able to shape outcomes at scale at the largest provider of healthcare in the country.
You guys just keep on amazing me, and everyone we're talking to, you got that same foundation, good character, always humble, and you're giving back, which is really awesome. And I mean, it just really makes me feel good about having you guys in our program and everything. So I just want to pass it on to you too. All right.
I mean, we're just a cup that's given back what was given to us in spades. So again, it's one of those things where if you talk to any of us alone on a golf course and so forth, we're going to sit there and tell you that we're not here. We didn't buy the groceries. We didn't get us to practice. We didn't yell at us during practice to maintain a level of standard. Those were all the individuals around us that supported us, that instilled those standards, that maintained them, that, drove it. So, it's just fun now, to have my own small humans and to see the cycle continue. It's like, well, what would my dad say right now about this? What would Marty say? And that's the fun part is that there's never, it's a journey, right? You never reach the final destination. And, if I was talking to your sponsors, I would explain to them that, organizations like this highlight those individuals who maybe need a little more support, or highlight those that have done exemplary work in their community for 30 years in Marty's case, and they never got a pat on the back. And so if this is that one moment where they get a pat on the back for helping hundreds of people become the best version of themselves, I think that's worth a little bit of your time or money.
Well, I can tell you that it's just really great to see just your advocacy and you're being a voice for the Players Association. That is so awesome.
Well, anyway, so when you get back this way, okay, for dinner, I'm going to keep you up to date on that, of course, for the dinner. If we have it, and if you can make it, it's 30th anniversary. We're trying to get, I'm calling it the return team, all the guys that past award winners. So, try to keep it in the football sense.
Get on a stage with those guys. Have you seen their credentials?
No, you can. I'm telling you, but it's fun, man. I mean, I couldn't believe some of the things I'm hearing from you and those other guys. It just is really, it's astonishing. It's awesome.
I mean, I was luckily, able to get that sneak preview. And so when you start talking about like the Navy SEAL and, and the other people, I'm just like, oh, what did I do with my day? Yeah. I wasn't like Jake Perrin. I didn't coach, 70 people, through a challenging time. Like,
you were the only one in the NFL.
How many? So that's the thing is like people look at that as some kind of pedestal, right? They look at that as like some kind of accomplishment. And it was great, but like it's a fleeting thing. Like it doesn't last. Like you can't take it away from you, but at the same time, like it's such a short snippet of time. It's 1,000 days, right? Like maybe 1,500 if you get lucky, right? In the NFL, and then it's gone. And so like
it's like climbing that mountain. You get to the top, you don't stay there. You come back down, but you made it to the top, and so many people haven't,
But like, does that? I mean, and that's one of those things. Like, you look at those other individuals and what they've been able to accomplish, and I would say that they've done more. I would challenge I do fun things at Worldwide that impact a lot of lives, but not the same way that a Jake Parent does. Tell me 30 years from now, how many people are going to be talking about the technology solutions that I put in versus the building of men that he's doing? You have CEOs, like you have Navy SEAL, like you have management consultants, like the people that are in your organization.
You know what, Kelly? Tell them what you said before.
I say the people that are elite and great leaders would say exactly what you're saying. And let me tell you something, the people that make a difference in the world, they don't even realize how big of a difference you make. You make one difference, like the things that you do. And I can only assume that it maybe something has to do with the ultrasound, right? That your wife or someone could see something that could save a life, or, have a surgery.
You can get into like analytics and there's all sorts of really fun stuff we do with universities in St. Louis, and I don't want to break NDAs and talk about things that I'm not supposed to, but at the same time, like there's and I think that's the joy of a Worldwide is that when it's fun to do analytics for a baseball team in St. Louis, and it's fun to change the shopping experience of the grocery store that you're in, and when you rent a car, you might be utilizing so all of those different things. We like voice to text is all going through, like when you talk to your phone, like. That's all stuff that Worldwide has done. And so like I can be proud of, the way that they're shaping the world. and changing it. So don't take my humility as that I'm not aware of it. It's it's when you look back, like being an Eagle Scout was more impactful to me than my All-State award.
That's quite an accomplishment, actually.
Well, like that was more because it was I was a third generation Eagle Scout, and so the memories that I built with my dad can't be taken away.
You know, at the Naval Academy, I do some interviews for the Naval Academy with some candidates and that is a big plus for them on their profile if they're an Eagle Scout, because it's such a hard thing to do, you know.
And then I would say the things that I do for my community, like being on the board of the CBL, and those type of things are NFLPA stuff. Like those to me are more lasting, and fun than So that's when you talk to those others, that's the fun stuff you want to get into is when you're not saving the world in your current job. What are the things that you do in your off time when you put the Superman cape down? Those investments back into the community. And I had some fun. I was helping out my buddy, he was the athletic director over at a school in North Nashville. And it was just these kids didn't have shoes.
Wow.
And they're trying to play football, and they don't have pads. They don't it was more, we ran around there for like 3 years and we had a great time. And he was like, the kids remember you going and hanging out with them more than me buying them shoes. Like the memories and the standard you were able to set is a greater thing than any than buying them jerseys. And so I get to live at Jake Parent's shoes for just a little bit. I got to put one shoe on for a period of time.
That's pretty cool. Well, tell me this. Okay, so you're talking about playing poker. You sound like you're pretty good at that. What are the odds of me getting you to say go Chiefs before we hang up?
You don't have a strong enough hand.
All right.
I told you not to wear that hat.
Well, I just had to try.
You got to realize I played against the Chiefs.
No, but even like Notre Dame, you mentioned Notre Dame. I root for Notre Dame every game but one game every year.
That makes sense. I love the fact, the history of the game and how that bond between those two programs was struck. I think that is something that is most people are not aware of that. So that's a unique thing between those two programs that I'm always.
One of the longest rivalries, and they I think it was because they put in the OCS program there that saved the school a long time ago. That's what I heard. Is why they put Navy on their schedule every year because of that. Because of that they helped them one year. So so there's neat things like that the game brings, right? Like Penn has the oldest stadium in the country. We played the most number of games. Like when you talk about the Heisman Award and you talk about the Outland Trophy and you talk about the Bugneric Award, like all those are Penn football players. That's awesome.
So that's the kind of fun stuff about like that program. We were the first one to have an ABC contract, and we had the highest rated game day when I played. It was us against Harvard, and good old, don't worry, I reminded Fitzpatrick that he got that all of his friends got to watch him lose. But anyways, that's the kind of fun stuff, that.
I have a daughter. My husband's a football coach, and I love football, obviously. And when she was really little, she would watch football on Sundays, with my husband, and he would have the football coaches from high school come over in the evening, and they would break down film, and we'd have food farm and stuff. And I was on my way home, and it was earlier in the day, and I called him, and she was probably 7, maybe 8, and he was talking to me, but he was talking to someone else. He was like, well, that's like 6 in the box. And he's breaking it down. And I said, are the coaches there already? And he goes, no. I go, who are you talking to? He goes, Sammy. I go, she's like 7. And he's like, yeah, but she asked me what it meant. And I want to make sure she learned it the right way. I'm like, this is not like the birds and bees. You don't have to tell her about the body parts. This is football. And that girl can break down film. She's 21 now, and she can break it down. She knows football.
There was just I believe the Steelers or Tampa or one of the teams just hired a running backs coach as a female. And then obviously the Super Bowl is going to be reffed by one of the linesmen is going to be female. And then just to give you another story, one of my buddies that I played with at Dallas, and his daughter is now a freshman here in Nashville, and she's the starting middle linebacker for their public high school. It would be like a Kirkwood level of size school. So not small, not Priory, not a 2A, like a yeah. So anyways, like that's, so my point is, your daughter can do whatever she wants to in this game, and let her just be the best version of herself, because I think that in Vanderbilt we had a kicker in the SEC kick extra points and score points. So anyways, my point is that there are many paths, if that passion continues, that she would have the ability to affect the game as a player, as a coach, as whatever she sees fit. And so that's the kind of thing I want to be able to instill in my daughter, is look at these great women role models.
I think that women are going to take a bigger role in the NFL going forward too, Ben. Hey, I know we went over a little bit, but I want to tell you we really appreciate your time and sharing your experiences with our membership. So thank you very much, Ben.